Have you ever heard like a bass line that it doesn't just rumble, it actually feels like it moves you? Or
Hmm.
maybe a guitar riff that suddenly dives down, gets this massive subterranean kind of feel like the ground is humming along.
Yeah, that deep physical sound.
Right. It often feels like, some kind of magic trick, some secret ingredient in the music.
It really can.
Well, today we're kind of pulling back the curtain on one of those secret ingredients. It's a real cult classic in the effects world. The Electro Harmonix Octave Multiplexer.
Ah, a fantastic one.
Yeah, it's this pedal that's not just about the sound itself, but about carving out this really unique sonic space, defining genres, inspiring decades of musicians messing around with it.
Absolutely. It's got a story.
So our mission for this deep dive is basically to trace the journey of this all-analog pedal. We want to uncover where it came from, dissect its really unique sound quirks and all,
Oh, definitely the quirks.
and explore the impact it's had on music. And just so you know, we're drawing all this from a really exhaustive source, Electro Harmonix Octave Multiplexer, a complete history. It's giving us a great foundation for this chat.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's imagine we're like jumping in a time machine. We're going back to the mid-1970s.
Right.
This was a real golden era for Electro Harmonix, wasn't it? Mike Matthews was just pushing out all sorts of wild stuff. What was the scene like for pedals then? Where did this Octave Multiplexer fit in?
It's a great question because the 70s were incredibly fertile ground for new sounds. Players were really hungry.
Yeah.
Now, you had earlier pedals, like the Octavia from the late 60s, famous for those searing kind of Jimi Hendrix octave up fuzz effects.
Like the high-pitched scream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Taking your signal up with a lot of grit. But the Octave Multiplexer, it was aiming for something completely different, fundamentally different. Its whole purpose was to generate a clean, deep octave below the input signal.
Below.
Yeah. It wasn't about adding that high-end sizzle. It was about adding, foundational weight. Yeah. Bottom end.
So totally distinct from the fuzz thing. It was genuinely new, pulling your sound down into the sonic basement, you could say. How did that translate into what musicians could actually do with it? What did it unlock?
Precisely. It was all about giving guitarists, and especially bassists, some serious sub-octave weight. Think of it like adding a sonic anchor, And this made it incredibly versatile. On one hand, yeah, you could dial in these incredibly rich, almost menacing psychedelic textures, sounds that felt really otherworldly.
Okay.
But equally, it was a powerhouse for just practical stuff like beefing up single loop guitar or bass lines. Right. It gave them this immediate, like, chest-thumping presence.
Wow.
It could take a simple riff and just make it feel immense,
Yeah.
Powerful.
That really does sound like a game changer. Okay, so how did they actually make this deep analog magic happen? Let's kind of peek inside the machine. What's the core tech here that gives it that voice?
Okay, so at its heart, it's pure analog sub-octave generation. This isn't like digital tricks. It's raw electronics doing the work.
Right.
The core is built around something called frequency divider circuitry. Essentially, the circuit listens, it tracks the incoming pitch from your guitar or bass,
Okay.
and then it electronically divides that frequency by 2. Halve the frequency, and boom, you get a note exactly 1 octave lower.
Simple math, but complex electronics, I bet.
Exactly. And what's interesting about this analog approach is that it's inherently, well, imperfect, which, as we'll get into, became part of its unique charm.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, unlike, modern digital octavers that strive for this pristine, perfect tracking, this old analog method introduces a certain organic character.
Yeah.
A bit of wobble, maybe.
So it's this almost sort of alchemical division of sound waves, but they didn't just give you the octave down, did they? You could actually shape it. What controls did EHX give players?
Yeah, they gave players pretty remarkable control for the time. It features these dual filters, which are your main tone controls.
Okay, filters.
Right. You have a high filter that lets you adjust the harmonic content of that sub-octave voice. Basically how bright or dark it sounds, how sharp or woolly.
Gotcha.
Then there's the crucial bass filter. This lets you shape the actual low-end response. You can make it tight and focused, or just this enormous enveloping rumble.
So you could really dial in the kind of low end you wanted.
Exactly. And then, of course, the essential blend control. That lets you mix your original dry signal with the generated sub-octave. You could go from just a subtle hint of low-end reinforcement all the way to like a full-on synth-based sound where the octave dominates.
Right. So when you put all of that together, the analog division, the filters, the blend, what's the signature sound? What are those tonal characteristics people talk about?
It's really distinctive. It produces this thick synth-like sub-octave, but it's got this gritty vintage character. It's not perfectly clean, you know. It has this warmth, this slightly woolly edge that digital pedals often struggle to replicate. It's legendary for its warm and woolly bass presence. And it can go from just a subtle reinforcement, adding a bit of depth, all the way to these truly deep, dub-like subharmonics.
Yeah.
The kind you don't just hear, you actually feel them.
Yeah, that physical thing again. Okay, now this is where its reputation gets a little quirky.
The quirky, yes.
Like a lot of vintage analog stuff, the Octave Multiplexer is famous or infamous for its tracking characteristics. The source material is pretty clear. It tracks best on the neck pickup and with single notes. So what happens if you try to play a chord? Or use the bridge pickup?
Ah, yes. The fun part. You might get what some people would call glitchy or unpredictable results with chords. Or even if your single note playing isn't super clean.
Glitchy, okay.
Now, this wasn't really seen as a flaw in the design philosophy back then. It was just a natural consequence of how early analog frequency division worked. It wasn't perfect.
Right.
But here's the genius part, the twist. This perceived limitation, this glitchiness, it quickly became part of its charm for experimental players.
Ah, so they leaned into it.
Totally. Instead of fighting it, creative musicians just embraced those glitches. They used the unpredictable sputtering or weird harmonics to craft entirely new, sometimes alien-sounding sonic textures.
That's fascinating.
It's a beautiful example, really, of how an imperfect technology can actually unlock unforeseen artistic pathways. A bug becomes a feature.
That's a great point, turning limitations into creative tools. Okay, so once this unique kind of quirky sound was out there, how did the pedal itself evolve? It started as one of those big, chunky EHX boxes, right?
Oh, yeah. The original Octave Multiplexer, the one from the 1970s, 1980s, was housed in that iconic, large EHX big box enclosure.
Built like a tank.
Pretty much. These were serious pieces of metal, often dominating pedal boards.
Mhm.
Or sometimes, for certain effects back then, they were the pedal board. You know, big footprint. But yeah, built robustly for the era.
And I guess as time went on, pedal boards started getting more crowded, components got smaller. Did EHX revisit the design?
They absolutely did. Fast forward to the 2000s, and Electro Harmonix brought out a reissue. The most obvious change was a smaller enclosure, which, you know, was a huge win for guitarists and bassists trying to cram more onto their boards.
Definitely more practical.
Right. But crucially, they maintained the original analog circuit. They kept that core sound people loved. And they also managed to improve reliability, addressing some of the wear and tear issues you'd expect with, like, 30-year-old electronics.
Makes sense. Better components, maybe. And it didn't stop there, did it? We've got an even smaller one today.
That's right. From the 2010s up to the present, we have the Nano Octave Multiplexer.
Tiny.
Yeah, as the name suggests, it's the most compact version yet, fitting into their standard compact Nano series enclosure. And the really remarkable thing is, even in this tiny little box, it still faithfully retains the analog divider circuitry and dual filter controls. All the stuff that gave the original its unique character.
Still the same core sound.
Pretty much. This whole evolution, you know, from the big box down to the Nano,
Yeah.
it really underscores its enduring appeal after nearly 50 years. It just shows that some sounds are so vital, so cool, that they deserve to be kept alive and reimagined for new players and new setups. It really says something, doesn't it?
It really does. Speaking of players, who were some of the key people or maybe genres that really grabbed onto the Octave Multiplexer? Because like you said, it might not be as universally famous as, say, a Big Muff, but it definitely carved out a place in underground and experimental music.
Oh, it absolutely did. Think about the genres where that deep, resonant bass isn't just an element, it's like the foundation.
Dub, maybe. Fun.
Exactly. Bass players in funk, dub, and reggae scenes just adored it for conjuring that massive low end. You think of legendary dub producers like King Tubby, always experimenting with bass frequencies. While maybe not specifically cited using this pedal all the time, the spirit of pedals like the Multiplexer totally fueled that kind of sonic exploration.
That deep, liquid bass sound.
Yeah. That sound you hear in Early Scientist or Lee Scratch Perry tracks. You could definitely get that kind of weight with a device like this.
And it wasn't just the bass players finding uses for it, right? You mentioned guitarists embrace the quirks.
Oh, absolutely. Guitarists in experimental rock were particularly drawn to it. Like we said, they actively used its glitchy tracking as a feature rather than a flaw.
Right, the happy accident.
Yeah, bands maybe like the Flaming Lips, known for those wild psychedelic soundscapes, or even some of the early, more out there post-punk bands. They would have found endless creative inspiration in its unpredictable nature. It let them create textures that were just, well, unobtainable with more normal effects.
So it's clearly got this legacy, but it's not just a museum piece. Is it still inspiring musicians today? Finding its way onto modern boards?
Without a doubt, you see modern shoegaze and doom players really appreciating its synth-like sub-octave tone.
Ah, okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, for a band maybe going for that My Bloody Valentine wall of sound guitar thing, or any band aiming for that massive, crushing low end you get in doom metal. The Octave Multiplexer offers that unique blend of synth-like weight and analog grit. It sits perfectly in those really dense mixes.
This creates that huge enveloping sound.
Exactly. It's hard to replicate that specific character any other way.
Okay, so after this whole journey, the tech, the sound, the evolution, the players, what's the lasting echo? What does this quirky, powerful pedal really mean for music tech, for creative expression? What's the big picture takeaway?
Well, I think the Octave Multiplexer played a truly pivotal role. It really helped establish the octave down effect as a staple of pedal boards.
It was kind of a pioneer then.
In many ways, yes. Before it, the concept wasn't really that widely explored in an analog stompbox format aimed at clean lows. It genuinely paved the way for later pedals, like the Boss OC2.
Ah, the classic OC2.
Right. Which offered its own distinct, maybe slightly drier sub-octave sound. And of course, it paved the way for all the modern digital octavers we have now. Without the multiplexer breaking that ground, the whole landscape of octave effects might look very different today. It was foundational.
And what about that unpredictable, glitchy nature we kept coming back to? What's the legacy of that?
That quality, that unpredictability, it's truly considered part of its charm, as we've said.
Mm.
And I think it profoundly influenced how players approach octave effects creatively.
How so?
It basically taught a generation of musicians that sometimes the wrong sound, the imperfect tracking, the happy accident,
Yeah.
that can be far more creatively inspiring than perfect, clean fidelity. It's about embracing the unique character of your gear rather than constantly fighting against it.
Finding the music in the machine's quirks.
Exactly. And the fact that it's still in production today in nano format, still relevant, that shows its enduring appeal after nearly 50 years. It really speaks volumes.
It truly does.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a testament to a distinct sonic fingerprint that for many people just hasn't been surpassed by newer tech in terms of pure character. Digital can give you precision, sure, but it rarely offers that specific blend of warmth, grit, and almost joyful unpredictability that the analog octave multiplexer does. It's like a living piece of music history that's still making noise.
What an incredible story. A fantastic deep dive into the Electro Harmonix Octave Multiplexer, from its innovative birth back in the mid-70s through its really distinct analog guts. And that sound that could be both huge and foundational and weirdly psychedelic, all the way to its current tiny form. We've really seen how its deep, synth-like, sub-octave, and even its famous kind of unpredictable tracking have just captivated musicians for decades. It really carved out its own special, revered space in music history.
And maybe this leaves us with a provocative thought to chew on as we wrap up. In our constant push for technological perfection, we often try to smooth out every flaw, every rough edge. But how often do those very imperfections, like the octave multiplexer's sometimes glitchy tracking, actually become the unexpected sparks for creativity? How often do they unlock entirely new ways of making art and end up defining the real, enduring legacy of a technology? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other flaws out there are just waiting for someone to embrace them as brilliant features?